Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right. I want to bring before, there's Matt and Molly, and she wants to present an idea about apple trees downtown. Molly? Does she need to state her name, please? Molly, state your name and your address for us, please. Oh, we can't hear you.
Speak up into the microphone.
Thank you.
I don't think it's on.
It's not on? Oh, hang on. There we go.
Hi, my name is Molly Middleton, and I live on Brookwood Terrace, 532 in Griffin, Georgia.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Good morning, and thank you. I would like to present the Giving Tree Project by Molly Middleton. Lou Holt said I can get by with only 3 rules. Rule 1, do right. Just do the right thing. Rule 2, do everything to the best of your ability with the time allotted. Rule 3, show people you care. Good morning, my name is Molly Middleton. I am a 3rd grader at Future Road Elementary. My school has the Future 15, a list of good things to do in life. My favorite is be the change in the world. The Giving Tree Project would allow us all to become the change. The Giving Tree Project consists of planting 4 apple trees in our downtown area for the ability to help feed those that are less fortunate and cannot provide for themselves. Each tree, 7 to 8 feet tall, has a cost of about $150 each. I believe that if approved, I will have no problem raising the money to purchase the trees in order to donate to the city for planting. I am asking today for your help and your support in pushing the Giving Tree Project forward. In hopes that one day other cities as wonderful as Griffin will join in becoming the change the world needs. Thank you for your time and your support. Together we can make Griffin a better place to live, work, and play.
Thank you, Molly.
On page 3, the Giving Tree Project potential placement of apple trees in the downtown area of Griffin, Georgia. Thank you.
Thank you, Molly. I believe in you. Thanks for coming. Yeah, she's got a map of where she needs to go.
Okay, these right here. Okay. Right.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank y'all. We appreciate it.
Okay. Okay. The next change on the agenda would be an update coming from Drew.
Just very briefly, I want to talk to you all a moment about this opioid crisis. As y'all recall, we came to you last year and discussed the fact that a number of states, cities, and counties around the United States were in the process of filing various lawsuits. We elected at that point not to participate in one of those actions, but there were about 2,600 filed nationwide, which were consolidated by the federal court in Ohio in what's called multi-district litigation. There's a Judge Posner, P-O-S-N-E-R, that's the way he spells it, who is presiding over all of those combined cases. And you might have heard on the news that a group of them, first wave of them, against manufacturers, was supposed to have gone to trial yesterday. However, that got postponed because of some last-minute settlement negotiations. There have been 1 or 2 manufacturers who have settled settled up to this point in time for several $1 million, a sizable amount. But last month, Judge Posner entered an order in which he basically says that the only way that he sees that a settlement or global settlement would work was for all cities and counties and states to participate and share in the settlement. And he's talking a lot about not a cash settlement as much as a monetarized treatment plan that would be sort of a national treatment plan where it could be implemented within every community to provide treatment and drug education. So we were brought back in even though we weren't in to start with, in essence. And that's kind of where things stand at this point. But I just thought I'd give you that quick update, and I don't know where it's going to wind up. I've heard some commentators say that there's not enough money on God's green earth to bring this thing to a true settlement with all the various litigants that are involved. There's been some backlash by the states. There are, I think, 47 of the 50 attorney generals have banded together and have basically said if it's settled, we want to control the settlement, not the cities and counties. There's been some friction there, but it's going to be ongoing. It's not going to end anytime soon, and we'll just try to keep you updated periodically.
Thank you. Okay. Next on the agenda, we're here to discuss a request to amend the Unified Development Code of the City of Griffin, Article 7, Planned Residential Development, 712J Architectural Standards.
So it's my turn now?
Yes.
Okay. So actually, item 1 and 2 can kind of go together. What we're doing is we've already done the vinyl siding thing in the last couple of months. And what we did was we were doing some research and found that there was a couple of areas where vinyl is still mentioned. Although the ordinance we adopted in August would supersede this, we're just trying to keep out any confusion. So we want to go back in and just delete the word vinyl so it's clean and it's understood without any issues. And that's how we're doing on both of those requests.
So each of those sections,
Yeah, so
which section, the first one and the second one, which properties are located?
712J, it's under 1B, which is residential construction, and they said that vinyl was acceptable use or acceptable exterior.
That's on new construction?
Correct.
Okay.
And then under commercial construction, it said the same thing, which is in the PRD zoning district, so the plain residential. So we're just taking it out so that there won't be any misunderstandings.
Tucson, do you have an update on that design standards prohibition that's coming back before the General Assembly this year?
You know what? I did not check on that. So basically what Drew is talking about is that there is a, what's the word I'm looking for? Possibility.
Proposed legislation at this point is carried over from last
Right.
session.
So basically which would take away our ability to regulate what our exteriors look like. So as far as us saying no vinyl or requesting they have, 10 windows in the front.
Architectural standards.
Any architectural standard.
That's the thing that we were
What we take- would take-
upset about last year.
Well,
Yeah.
you opposed it last year, and yet it's coming back again, it looks like this year. I was at a presentation that GMA did about 6 weeks ago, which I think if y'all want Tom Gale or one of the folks at GMA to come down and talk about it, he would be glad to do so. Schedule him, but he was asking for resolutions to be passed in opposition to the current bill that's up there.
Is that bill different from the one that they had presented?
Yes,
Okay, like significantly?
much so.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, the bigger cities the smaller cities are going to take the hit for what the big cities are doing. So if you look at some of the criteria, architectural criteria for like, we'll say Sandy Springs, Bankhead, or Buckhead, or somewhere up north, is pretty substantial. It's very kind of cost prohibitive to builders, so that's why they're bringing it back to the legislature.
It's the Home Builders Association which seems to be pushing it the strongest in Georgia, and they're taking the tack that if you oppose it, that you oppose affordable housing,
Yeah.
workforce housing, which certainly I don't think is true here.
Sure.
But they're saying that by the fact you put architectural standards into your zoning and development regulations, that you're upping the cost of construction and making it cost prohibitive.
So, anywho.
We don't have the right to really govern our city according to what we have to follow along along these state guidelines.
Well, I think
Potentially.
with the current constitution in Georgia, with the uniformity clause, which allows state preemption, when that constitution passed, there was a law school professor at the university that said all cities need is a zoning ordinance and a charter, because otherwise they don't have to worry about passing legislation.
Wow.
Maybe some truth to that.
But currently, that bill has not been adopted. We're not back in legislative session, and it has not been adopted, so we can have architectural standards as of today.
Right.
And this is something that we're just cleaning up from last time because we did not discuss the planned residential development, and this is also the building massing and architecture for a manufactured building, is 605A, the second one. So that legislation does not affect what we're doing today.
Right.
It could at next legislative session.
All right, good.
Thank you, Tucson.
Next is to provide an update on Spalding County Correctional Institute and County Jail wastewater treatment discharge to Shoal Creek.
Good morning, y'all.
Good morning.
Try to make this as pleasurable as possible, but over the years, we've had some issues with the CI in the jail. They do not allow trash cans in the CI because they do things they're not supposed to do. They turn them in stills, they do a lot of things with whatever happens there. The materials in that CI, we've had the muffin grinder, or the county's had the muffin grinder fixed several times, but the muffin grinder hasn't resolved the issue. In June of this year, I advised William that we're working on new head end, and the head end was designed to get out grit, not garbage. And you have pictures in front of you of all the garbage that goes from the jail and the CI through and bypassing the muffin grinder to the Shoal Creek facility. You also have pictures of two pumps that just recently cost us in the last 90 days over $10,000. We engaged William in June and said, William, something's got to be done because we don't need to be putting the stress on the new head end. And I guess for the lack of better words, it's kind of gone nowhere. I just talked to Brian. Now, he did engage Paragon, and they did give him, Paragon did give the county a solution. I just got an e-text back from Brian. They have not been engaged to go ahead and move forward with this. At this point, there's only about 2.5 months before we bring that head end on at Shoal Creek. And on the last page of the document that I presented to you, I gave you not only the federal regulation, but the state regulation, which mirrors the feds. And I have no other course but I want to inform you, because you are the commission and you will hear this, but I don't know anything better to do but talk to Drew and write a cease and desist letter and put a drop dead date on it that they fix the problem. We are not in the garbage collection business. We are in the wastewater business, and we do treat wastewater sludge. You can go to any facility and see the condoms and all those, the wipes and everything else at the facility. You don't see garbage at Potato Creek, and you don't see garbage at Cabin Creek. So at the end of the day, I have no other choice to get with Drew and figure out how we're going to make this work. It's a $200,000 fix, and Paragon has advised them and given them the information, and as of today, there's been no contact with them. Lead time on a press to resolve this issue, I'm not sure they can even meet the deadline unless there's one sitting on the shelf. I have not seen Paragon's design, but we can't take this anymore. Our ratepayers paid over close to $11,000 in the last 90 days because of their non-action.
What What is a viable corrective action?
Cease and desist is they no longer going to hook up to our sewer system.
Well, I mean, in terms of them still being allowed, like, what can they do?
They need to file a letter with us. We asked for an action plan in June. Please give us an action plan on what you're going to do and how you're going to correct the situation. The county said, well, you prove it. So we proved it. We opened up the manholes, I got films, you see the pictures in there, and they dragged their feet on that. So we took care of that. And then the other thing, the last email from William was, well, you got a brand new head end, you can take care of this. It seems more logical for you to take care of it at your head end. And I said, no, we're not in the garbage collection business, we're in the wastewater collection business. So to answer your letter, it's just like when we get a consent from EPD, we have to give them a plan of action with a drop dead date and how it's going to work, and that's what needs to happen here. We've been at this for years. When we rebuilt the facility, we don't need to be tearing up $8 million worth of facility because they don't want to deal with their issue.
And your estimated cost is somewhere.
They said
about $250,000.
PCG's Paragon Consultants Group estimate is about a $200,000 fix. Okay.
So is the fix for them, just so I have a clear understanding, some type of mechanic mechanism?
Yes, ma'am. They'll have their muffin grinder, which chops it up in little pieces, which still is not acceptable when it was working correctly coming to us, because we had looked like snowflakes all over the pond. And then what they'll do is they'll put a press in there, or they'll build a mechanical facility to collect those byproducts, put it in a hopper, and have it hauled off. Because that's another cost they want us to bear too, is we'll send it to the head end, and we'll have to spend the time cleaning our bar screen instead of them having a bar screen, and then we'll pay to have it hauled off to a landfill.
So what do they do for trash? I mean, where do they put the trash?
I've only been to the CI 3 times, and that was not by choice, okay?
Right.
But one of the issues is the trash cans create a very unique problem for law enforcement inside those facilities. So they don't have any. So when they sneak in potato chip bags or buy them or whatever, we've taken sheets out of the manhole. We've taken pillowcases, clothes, you name it. We've taken it. It's come through that facility because they flush them down the toilet. There's no self-control. Where are you going to put your potato chip bag if you don't flush it down the commode? You just throw it on the floor, I reckon. I don't know what the procedures are.
Right.
I don't tell the sheriff how to run his business, but what I am saying is, I guess I am here, we don't want your garbage at Shoal Creek anymore.
Yeah.
Is the $200,000 are there several plans to repair this? Is this the most the most economical, or are there?
Yeah, when you do something like this, you look at your options and pick the best plan with the least amount of expense, but
What
still.
is the best plan? What would that cost?
Well, you got to put a bar screen in there for $200,000. That's the only option.
Okay.
They've already got a grinder, but the only option is to put a bar screen in and then put a roll-off out there and pay somebody to haul off. Bless you.
And how long has this been going on?
Years. And when we finally decided to spend $8 million on a new facility, plus the advent, this is not the first 2 times those pumps have been pulled because of this problem. And I just, budgets are tight now, and they're getting tighter. Okay, so the bottom line is they need to, I guess, for lack of better terms, man up and do what they need to do, because we don't need to be collecting their garbage anymore. It's ridiculous.
A timeline for the cease and desist letter is what?
January 3rd.
I'd say January 1st.
No later than that.
No later.
Okay.
They've had plenty of time. They're bogarting on this.
Okay.
I'm good. Roll.
All right. Thank you all.
Next, discuss revision of the cross-connection ordinance for the city of Griffin.
Jessica and I have been working on this together along with the rest of the staff. Basically, this is a cleanup, couple changes in instead of an inspector, we call him a technician by job description. I mean, this has been on the books for a while. We've never referenced the manual for cross-control connection. And then the second thing is that all non-residential buildings, they have to have many ways that was never stated, but they have to have a double-check testable backflow RPZ protector. That's the only two big things in the whole thing. The rest of it's wordsmithing and dropping some stuff out. But we did want to make sure that from an enforcement standpoint, if somebody that has a non-residential facility, it's actually in writing versus us just going out and saying, this is what you got to do. But that's it.
Is this like adding an additional backflow preventer, or is this something different?
A good example is there was a hair salon shop on East Solomon Street that was residential turned commercial, and we didn't get notified, and we all know what happens in hair salons. They've got bleach, they got peroxide, all those dyes, and they didn't have an RPZ on there. Now, nothing happened. We finally caught that it went into being a business, and that's shame on us for not catching it on the front end, that it went from residential to PRD or whatever. You know I hate zoning, but the bottom line is they need to have backflow preventer, an RPZ on their facility, because there's a lot of places now, I've been here going on 28, 29 years, that have gone from residential to commercial, and we just need to, any commercial business needs to have an RPZ testable backflow on it. And that's the main change to this. Other than that, residential, we deal with it like we have in the past.
What's the total cost for an average business?
Depends if you got to have a hot box where it's at. Usually you don't have to have a hot box. I don't know, $1,200 to $3,000, somewhere in that magnitude.
It's on every business?
Yeah. We're in the process now. We've been working with businesses over the last 4 years as we go in and look at their testable backflows, whether they have them or they don't, and we've been working with them for them to actually put it on. And obviously we probably did it in a pretty good fine fashion, because y'all haven't heard it, and neither has Facebook. That seems to be the...
Just from my understanding, so I don't take an office in downtown Griffin. A backflow preventer is on the meter at the city, correct? The city's got a backflow preventer.
The city has a backflow.
Water, correct, or sewer?
There should be a backflow preventer on every building behind the back of the meter in the city.
For water, though.
So
For water.
For water, or are we talking about on sewer?
Water.
Okay, so we're on water. So there's a backflow preventer currently that the city puts on the meter on the city
The
side.
city does not, the only backflow preventers we put on are residential. We do not put commercial backflow. That's the responsibility, and that's in the ordinance now.
Okay, I'm just trying to understand.
Okay.
So when we did it, the backflow preventers 20 years ago or whatever on all the residential,
We took on the financial responsibility.
but on the commercial side, we did not.
That's correct. And as we find them, we're correct in that.
And so a traditional backflow preventer,
They don't cut it. And the reason, and let me give you another example why it doesn't cut it. We've had several restaurants that weren't restaurants and strip malls that came in, nobody notified us that they were in there, that they changed it from a office complex to a diner, and there was no FOG control, and there was no RPZ put on for backflow due to that.
So Brent, is it written, does it matter the type of business? I'm just thinking outside the box. I know of a lady right now who runs a little after-school program. She tutors children, but she is in a commercial area. I mean, does it matter? I mean, will we take this on a case-by-case, or?
Eventually, we will get all non-commercial buildings on an RPZ. That's the plan.
non-commercial or all commercial?
Non-commercial, non-residential, excuse me.
So a 3/4 inch water line for a typical business.
Water line has nothing to do with it. It's what happens in the business or could happen in the business.
But I'm just trying to understand, for an office exposure, I use 300 gallons, if that, a month. So if I don't have a backflow preventer on that, it'd be a $1,200.
It could be, without looking at it, I don't know how much it will be. I mean, each building's different.
I understand, but generally if they've got a It's a water line. So when we do new construction or when people do
When we
renovation,
do new construction, everybody, it's written in his design specs and everything.
so all that's been checked?
That's all been done. That's correct.
Gotcha.
It's been that way for a while. It's just that we're just cleaning it up.
And just to sort of clarify, under 94-304, cross connections prohibited and contamination prevention, this is all currently within the ordinance. When you go to A, that's prohibitions, and then you go to 2 and 3, 1, 2, and 3, it specifically says, currently, we're not asking to change this, that new non-residential customers shall complete a cross-connection control questionnaire that we will provide to them. We will then look at that and base a risk assessment off what it is that they answer in regards to whether or not that cross-control is necessary.
Okay.
If the cross-connection is not going to have any problems, then it's not required. But if it is, based on that risk assessment, then we can require them to put in the appropriate backflow prevention device.
So a typical little
Right.
office,
Shouldn't.
it's
Currently.
that has a toilet and a sink.
Shouldn't.
Probably not, but if you have some kind of food service.
Right, so
Right.
I'm just trying to understand the common sense part.
Right, we're asked, the inquiries, and again, this is in the ordinance now, the inquiries will be made as to the type of facilities and equipment to be attached to the water service.
Right.
That makes
So it's not a
perfect sense.
blanket, every
Right.
single non-residential customer will have to provide this, but there is a risk assessment that is done, and then it's decided from that point what's
Got
needed.
it. That's
Clarification.
wonderful.
You're welcome.
And we do this through planning and development or through
No, water, wastewater.
water wastewater? Okay.
If you'll remember, a couple of months ago, this all started from wells, residential wells, and so there was concern about whether or not a residential well was required to have a backflow preventer. If it is attached to the system, which some can be, then they do have to have a backflow preventer. If they are not, then they do not. And so that can be either, and this is all in the manual, not in the ordinance, but if they are connected to the system, then they will have to provide information showing that they do have the proper backflow device. If they are not connected to the meter, then they will have to, or connected to our system, they will have to sign an affidavit saying that they are not. And that'll be changed in the manual, which is why we're not bringing that to you tonight for first reading, because we needed to update those changes in the manual, which were a little more difficult. So that will be at the next meeting, where we'll have the first reading of this ordinance to show those changes in the manual as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, next, discuss commercial collection, landfill gate rate, and transfer station tipping fees in comparison to current competitors' rate for like services.
Just for a little background on this as well, at the end of the fiscal year, as you all know, we go through our financial statements for the 12 months in preparation for the audit. And this year, what we found, or this past fiscal year, what we found is that solid waste expenditures was increased over revenues. That is for a couple different reasons, one of which was a lot of unexpected repairs made to big equipment that costs a lot of money that we did not foresee, of course. The other one that is a little bit more detrimental is the recycling changes that are happening globally. We do expect to come back to y'all at the next meeting and share some of those concerns. Phil, Kenny, and I met with Sunoco on Friday to talk to them, and so we'll have a better presentation for that next month. But we also realized that some of our rates had not been updated in quite some time in regards to commercial, like front ends and roll-offs and that kind of thing. So Phil is going to present some market comparisons for you in that regard.
Great, thanks. I appreciate the time. As Jessica was saying, we haven't adjusted our commercial rates. I started here September the 23rd, 2001, and we were charging the same then as we are now for commercial. This has nothing to do with residential. No taxpayers, no residential at all. Let's clear that. The cost of a truck back 20 years ago was $128,000. We pay $168,000 to $170,000 for them now. Our roll-off containers, the big roll-off boxes, I remember buying them for $1,100. We pay close to $4,000 for them now. And with that said, we have a very vibrant roll-off business. We have some very loyal customers, our commercial customers as well as our residential. We have probably 99 or almost 100% of all of the industrial park due to our rates and also our service levels. We give same-day service. We take a little of the extra stuff. But which button do I push? Oh, you doing it? No? What did I do? Okay, our current rate structure, as you see, for our 20-yard container is $200. That's flat rate. No delivery fee, no fuel surcharge, no rental, no per ton rate, no anything. It's a flat rate. So if you want to put a roof on your house or you get a contractor to do some work and they need a 20-yard container, we charge them $200. We currently have no time frame involved with that, which puts us in a bind at times. A 30-yard's $225 and a 40-yard's $250. And I've got it noted at the bottom that the current rates have been in place for about 20 years.
Phil, what is the market on that?
I guess you're getting to that. Fixing to get to it, yes.
Sorry.
All right, next slide. The current market price, the competitor rates for roll-off services average about $300 for a 20-yard, $350 for a 30, and $400 for a 40-yard container. That's average. That's not exact. There's no science to the garbage business when it comes down to rates. Because it's who you know, how much you give, how much you do. It's who you're in bed with when it comes down to builders, all that kind of stuff. So it's very fluid. A lot of the haulers charge a delivery fee as well as a fuel surcharge if the conditions exist, such as high fuel prices. We've never charged a fuel surcharge. When I started here, we paid 54 cents a gallon for diesel fuel. We pay now $3. And then when it gets to a certain rate, a lot of that fluctuates. And a lot of them will charge a daily rental fee if it's over about 15 days. Some will go $3 a day, $15 a day, $10 a day, depends on who you're at. In addition, a lot of your haulers, the majority of your haulers, now your private haulers, are going to charge a maximum, on any of the roll-off containers you put out. So, Commissioner Murray, you get a house worked on. You're getting your house worked on, and you have ABC roll-off company out there. You're going to be usually going to pay about $300 to $325 plus a maximum of about 3 to 5 tons. That's inclusive in that price. Anything over that, if you have 7 or 8 tons in there, you're going to be charged usually the gate rate tipping fee at the disposal facility to which the roll-off container is being taken, and usually an add-on. So, and again, we have been absorbing a lot of these costs. Sure. I'm not asking for the moon. I'm asking for market stability and equalization. Right now, we have 9 that I've counted competitors in our region. I'm not going to name them off because it's irrelevant right now. We've got some smaller local haulers, as well as the large, corporate haulers around, and that's what their rates are based on. My next one here is I'm proposing that we increase our roll-off fees by $50 per haul, and imposing a $15 a day rental for containers and kept in excess of 15 days. I come to you every year asking for roll-off containers. And it's because we have business, thank goodness. We've been blessed with it. We got more than we can do because, it's just what it is. But also, and on the other side of that is because a lot of times we've been allowing our containers to stay out too long where it doesn't free up a lot of containers. We have a lot of folks that have called and asked for a container and they say we have a waiting list, which is true. So,
have we never asked for the rate increase just to be extremely competitive, or would be nice, or it's just never come up?
We've been able to work within our means because we are so small that everyone considers us a city business and not a regional business, which is a misnomer from day one. We've got to be able to know this is an enterprise fund and we need to be operating it as an enterprise, and being just to service for the city residents or just the city limits has been a big misconception.
About how much of the cost would you estimate that we are absorbing?
as it relates to what?
The cost of the roll-offs, you said they're now up to 4,000. You remember a date when you paid 1,100 for
Oh, yeah. We're absorbing our rate. I mean, we've been offsetting that by the number of hauls that we've been getting, okay? I mean, it's not the fact that we're absorbing anything so much. We've come to a breaking point. We've got so much business, we've got so much cost. So right now, if we can't increase my business level or the monies one way or the other, we're going to stay flat. So absorbing costs has been, wow. There's not a whole lot of money to be made in it. There is some, but it's not a lot because due to our current rates. And as I said, a 20 would go to 250, a 30 would go to 275, and a 40 would go to 300. We've got 36 months worth of data that I pulled, and our estimated revenue increase will be about $128,000 a year. That won't buy a truck, but it'll keep us to where we don't have to expose ourselves too much capital in a capital acumen. So,
And you don't think that would pose a problem with us losing business to a lot of the competitors?
if they want to pay $300 or $325, then yeah. If we're in a competitive business. This is exceptionally competitive, like I said, especially in roll-off, because there's 9 other haulers out there that'll do it. And our rates would be.
We're still lower.
We're still lower. It's helping me and the city, and as far as being able to expand without having to sit there and look at our revenues versus our capital, and our capital exposure be so great to where we can't grow. And this next page is just a breakdown of our proposed rate structure, which kind of does the same thing as this front page just broke down, where you could look at it. All right, our next slide is our commercial front load. That's your restaurants and businesses and all of that to carry the business dumpsters that are dumped at night. 2 yards, 4 yards, 6 yards, and 8 yards are our size. That's just the sizes that we have, and these are our current rates that are published in our rate structure. And I'm just going by one time a week on these. Now, a shared container rate is $33.68. We have a lot of our businesses that have little mini strip malls that have one container that 4 businesses use, and that's what they pay. These current rates have been in place for about 15 years. We haven't done any MCI, CPI, or any other I on any of our front load rates in that time, and our rates increase by the same base rate as the frequency of requests. So if you got a 2-yard container and you want it twice a week, it's going to cost you $90 a month instead of $45 a month. So that's how that works. So it costs the same to service it on Monday as it does on Wednesday. And the next one here is our marketplace comparison for the front-end loader. Front-end rates in the private arena, like I said, are very difficult to benchmark as the business model of the industries also change. You've got, I spent 20-plus years in the private sector. During acquisitions, during blitzes, all this stuff that you go through. All of a sudden, Commissioner Murray's restaurant, she's got a restaurant, and it's doing very well. You're fixing to open another one, blah, blah, blah. So here I am, big garbage. I'm going to come in and I'm going to say, well, I can do your 2-yard once a week for $58. But I tell you what, if you give me both of your facilities, I'll do it for $62. So, like I said, there's no set rate. They have a base rate, but they also work within the market area and whomever they're dealing with. It's a cutthroat business, but something that you gotta deal with. And frequency rates are generally negotiated and very fluid as far as the cost, as I said. Okay. Next one here, I'm looking at about an 8% fee increase. Is what we're looking at on the number on what we've been able to assume and what we've been able to look at, and the best information that we can get from the local from the local business arena that's happening right now within this business. We're going from $45, let's see, an estimated increased revenue of $67,000. Teresa, if you go to the next one. All right, this is a little bit better. Our current market rate, say for a 2 yards, 45, ours is 45. The market rate carries anywhere from $56 to $58. I erred on the high side a little bit. I'm proposing to go to $48.60 and double as it goes along. And the rest of them are pretty indicative of what everything else. It's an average of an 8% increase. Shared container rate would go from $33.68 to $36.50.
And Phil, that's a charge by the month, right? Not
Per
depending on
month,
how often.
per month. And frequencies, like I said, if it's 40, if you get a 2 yard once a week, it would go to $48.60. If you want to get it twice a week, it would be $97.20, something like that, per month. These are all per month costs, not per tip, but per month. Shared container rates will go from $33.68 to $36.50. Now, that doesn't affect the downtown business district. Okay, we've already done our tier pricing for the downtown business district. It does not apply to them. It applies to where we have our front load containers that are out in mini strip malls and different things like that. Okay, so this would just, like I said, just dumpsters only, not containers.
Everyone's still once a week on these strip malls and like Food Depot, for instance.
Depends on how it is. The one out there across, it depends if there's a restaurant in it, and it depends if there's a lot of big business in it, but most of them will go Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. You've got restaurants that go 6 days a week. We've had to develop a 6-day route, a Saturday route for the businesses like over at Griffin, the Applebee's and the Truett's and the Longhorns that everybody eats at, and their containers fill up daily.
Okay.
So we've had to do a 6-day-a-week service for them, which we're working real well with. That whole area is very busy, so we have to tip. Little Caesars goes 5 days a week now, because everybody buys $5 pizza, which we all do. But so that would go. That's where that would change to. Now here comes one of the reasons why the transfer station tipping fees that are fixing to discuss would all have an effect on the first two, the roll-off and the front load that I just discussed as far as their rates and for our setting those. Our current transfer station tipping fee is $36.38 a ton with a $15 minimum for non-city residents. City residents still dump for free. And that has not changed and is not going to. Marketplace comparison. The current transfer station tipping fees and some of the transfer stations around in Fayetteville, Jackson, Stockbridge, some of the regional area averages about $45 a ton. They'll go from 45 to 48 to 42. So it's all just on how. If you own your own subtitle deed landfill, you can internalize some of that cost, but we unfortunately cannot. All right, our proposed tipping fees to the transfer station would go to $39.65 a ton, which is still cheaper than the one in Jackson that everybody says, well, I'll just go to Jackson. Okay.
Okay. It'll take you longer to get there, so.
$83.39 an hour to run a truck. If anybody wants the numbers, I'll be happy to give them to them.
Okay.
That's payment, fuel, depreciation, SG&A, all your other ancillaries that are attached to it. So that's an increase of $2.97 a ton. Now, as I get further into this, I'll explain where this number comes from. Our non-city resident minimum would go from $15 to $25. We're having a bad problem with scrap tires. Our scrap tire disposal costs that which we eat, the city does. I'm talking about what we pick up from the streams, from the side of the roads, from people dump illegally into these dumpsters and they roll off containers we are eating. Okay, we're actually paying about $1,200 to $1,400 a month to get rid of tires. And the tire recycling business is booming, but there's only one of them around here, and that's in Jackson, and they've gone up to a per-ton rate instead of a per-tire rate. So we're going to about $195 a ton to get rid of scrap tires. It's not our responsibility. We're not a publicly funded charity to our commercial businesses, and I'm not being disparaging to any commercial business at all. We have a lot of unscrupulous folks that like to come around in the middle of the night and throw stuff in people's dumpsters. We've all seen that and been dealing with that. But right now, we're going to have to start paying for disposal of our tires. We're going to have to start charging. I propose a $10 a tire, $15 if it's mounted on a wheel, because I have to take it up to my motor pool and take it off the wheel before we can dispose of it, and $25 for a large truck tire. We've had some roll-off containers with some of our customers that have come in that have had a bunch of pallets and building supplies on top of it and had 30 and 40 tires underneath it.
Have we never charged for the scrap tire?
No, we have not. And it's time to get real in the business is why I'm here. I mean, it's
Just a lot of costs that we're eating.
a lot of costs that we're eating, and my numbers at the end of the year will not look like they did this year. Our gate rate for the intake of recyclables, start charging for that. Jessica alluded a little bit earlier that we just met with Sunoco, which is our contracted processor, and we'll bring a little more detail and a little more explanation to the recycling markets later. I didn't want this to morph into that because we're having an enormous amount of, to suffice to say, we got a whole lot of contamination. We got a lot of loads that are being turned down. We've got some of our external customers that bring in recyclables from other towns that they're just using it for a garbage truck, and it's got to stop. So if we our estimated revenue increase will be about $118,000 a year, and it's not profit. It's basically working within our means. It'll have some profit margin because that's what we're in business for. But
What percent is that? I mean, based on what our revenues are, period, and the increase? I mean, it's just still an 8%?
It's about 8%, yeah. And that was an average for front load and also for I just kind of went through all three of them together based on some numbers that I just got here we're fixing to get into. This won't be much longer, I promise. The next one is our proposed tipping fees. Just like I said, it kind of breaks it down to a little cheat sheet for you. Okay, the reason, or one of the reasons, and I did not add this to your packet, and it's not on my PowerPoint, but I wanted to kind of tell you what the driving force for the tipping fee increase at the transfer station, as well as in associated costs with our operating costs and our truck costs. That's House Bill 792, okay? And what that is enacted July the 1st. Our tipping fees are basically going to be or have been increased. We negotiated a tiered type increase for the next year or two with Republic Services. And Drew, if you're familiar with this, I don't know, but I'm going to just kind of it basically states, when a municipal solid waste disposal facility is operated by a private enterprise, which would be Pine Ridge Landfill, okay? It's a municipal solid waste, but is operated by a private enterprise. The host local government is authorized and required to impose a surcharge of $1 per ton or volume equivalent in addition to other negotiated charges or fees which shall be imposed and paid to the host government for the facility. Now, that was the old, all that's got lines strike through, except as otherwise noted. This is the revision. Except as otherwise provided in subparagraph, I can't even read my own, B and C of this paragraph, effective July 1st, 2019, when a municipal solid waste disposal facility is owned by private enterprise, the host government is authorized and required to impose a surcharge of $2.50 per ton. So instead of the $1 a ton that we've been paying, in addition to our tipping to the Butts County where it's located, they have exercised this bill and increased the tipping fees or the host fee to $2.50 a ton. That's in addition to our tipping fee. So we can't continue to pay that by taking this money in at our transfer station. All of our commercial waste and all of our residential waste and everything goes to our transfer station. And by the way, the building's being delivered today. So we're going to be back in business pretty soon. But
And Phil, let me just clarify that because it's a little confusing. The host fee is not something the city of Griffin is required to pay. That's something that Republic has to pay to Butts County.
Exactly.
What Republic is doing is passing that along to the people that use it. It's not something that the city of Griffin is required to pay. Republic's just not going to eat that cost either, so they're passing it along to us and expecting us to eat it, which we don't want to do. So it's the customer that's actually dumping that will have, or tipping, that will have to pay that additional $1.50. Not that the legislature said, okay, City of Griffin, you now have to pay this. Republic has to pay it to Butts County.
And Republic's not going to stay in business by eating that additional $1.50. So this year we negotiated a 75-cent per ton increase. Next year we'll get the other 75 cents that we have to get, and that's going to compensate for a lot of these. That's a lot of the driving force, in addition to the cost of operations that warrant our price increases on our commercial stuff. It's like I said, if you want to read the whole thing, it's House Bill 792. So our landfill gate rate right now is $35.50 a ton with a $15 minimum for non-city residents. City residents dispose of material at no charge. Shoal Creek Landfill is a construction and demolition facility only, which no municipal solid waste is accepted. The two landfills in the area are Subtitle D facilities, which is your Lamar County Regional Landfill and your Pine Ridge. So being able to say, are we going to compare our tipping fees to another C and D site is going to be exceptionally difficult, because you've got two warring, I guess for lack of a better word, Subtitle D landfill. Subtitle D landfill means they can take in garbage, they can take in construction waste, they can take in green waste, and depending on if it generates too much methane, blah, blah, blah. But anyhow, but the average fees for these facilities runs about $39 a ton. It's very difficult to get an average, especially whenever they're tonnage at both of these facilities based on, their gate rate is based on tonnage. The more you bring, the less it is, so it goes back and forth. But next one. Our proposed land rate, gate rate right now is going up to $38.55 a ton. Non-city residents pay a minimum of $25. Now, I want to basically to get within the marketplace. If you bring me 0 to 500 tons a month, I'm going to charge you $38.55. 501 to 1,000, $35.50, 30, and 1,501 to 2,500 is $28.55. Scrap tire disposal remains the same cost, $10 a tire, $15 if mounted, $25 for a large truck tire. Based on a 58,000 ton year average, that'll give us about $91,000. We had to eat a lot of costs this year, as Jessica alluded to earlier. We had a huge cost at the landfill with the expansion, or we would be out of business. So we had to do the expansion. Ran into a big vein of granite rock. It had to cost us another $133,000 to get rid of. So it was very expensive. Doesn't seem, it happens. This is the cost of doing business in this type of business. But our gate rates have not been affected by our MCIs or any CPIs or anything. The only thing that has been affected is the residential rates with the MCI. This proposal that I've got here and that I put forward, the next page is just a recap, is basically for our commercial customers only. And I'm not picking them out. It's just the fact that it does cost us, and we've done this very conservatively. I haven't just jumped in and didn't go into it lightly. I don't like to do price increases, especially for anyone, whether it's residents or commercial businesses, but we are a business, and we have to treat it as such. I'll entertain any questions if anybody has any.
I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
I guess it kind of relates to how our concerns with code enforcement. How much of the tires that we're getting are ones that people are intentionally bringing versus what we're just picking up off?
Very small amount. We don't have a lot of problems. The code enforcement's actually stepped up and done a pretty good job about getting stuff up off the streets. We get, I would say we don't get 50 tires a month,
Okay.
off the streets. It's just a lot of people just sneak some in, and on our commercial side. And you're a driver, and to be a devil's advocate, I'm driver of Phil's Garbage Service. I've got some roll-off containers out here at business and getting some work done. My driver just goes and picks up the roll-off container and goes. He didn't look in it. He didn't say, that's what they do. But unfortunately, we can't just say, we can't use the term plausible deniability or whatever you want to know is what's in it. I mean, we got to look, and we're eating this cost, and it's just not acceptable any longer.
And then my other question, as I know we've had some problems in the past with the roll-off containers staying out indefinitely.
Exactly.
And so I guess with us adjusting the fee, this gives us a better tracking mechanism.
We already have the tracking mechanism in place on our software, in current software that we have. And as they go out, we'll know exactly where they're at. We'll make a courtesy call on the 14th day saying you're fixing to be assessed a $15 charge after today, or get another pull. Either way, each time you get the container hauled, the clock starts over. Sure. That gives me a better idea of what I have in inventory, what I can, and whenever you do come in to ask for, I had to turn 2 away yesterday. We just bought 20 containers. Okay, when was it, 6 months ago, 4 months ago, when y'all approved those for me to buy? But, and that's great, the business is there, but I can't turn those containers fast enough by letting them stay out that long to generate the additional revenue that's necessary.
Do you, excluding the ones that are just staying indefinitely, is that 15 days or 14 days a realistic?
Yes.
Okay.
And when I say that, and I say that with all, confidence, because you got 2 weeks. If you're going to get a container, you got 2 weeks. Bottom line is, if your contractor didn't show up, it's not my problem, okay? It's like Doc Keller and his methane grinder. It's not my problem.
But Phil, just to clarify, the $15 per day after 15 days is only if they don't get it hauled. So
Exactly.
if they haul it on day 12 and want it back,
You can
we'll
keep
do
that container 12 months if you want to, but you're going to haul it every 15 days or pay me $15 a day.
So is on let's say that they do call on the 14th day to have it hauled, are they reassessed another fee, that flat rate fee?
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, they're charged that $250. Say it's a 20-yard container, they would be charged $250.
Okay, so instead of you basically being able to check it out for $200 and hold it for a year, we're now saying every 2 weeks it'll.
I'm going to haul that container, and I'm going to have a haul ticket for it, showing that it's been hauled, not just come haul it, or just charge me. I don't want it hauled, but just charge me. No, that's not going to happen.
Okay, so for me, I'm comfortable with that, because I know a lot of times some of the issues that we've had is that people start construction projects.
Exactly.
And then the roll-off just sits in the driveway forever and becomes a nuisance for all the other homes
And
around.
I have moved several on that way, and we just can't do that anymore. It's not right for the neighborhood, it's not right for the people there.
Yeah.
Cynthia and I have gone through this a lot.
Well, and we've learned that trash attracts trash.
Yes.
So if you leave a dumpster out there and people realize that nobody is using it, they will use it. And then
Right.
the homeowner is going to be mad, or the person that rented it is going to be mad, because they're not the ones that filled it up, but they're going to have to pay to have it dumped because it sat there. And so this is going to solve a couple different problems with this approach.
Yeah, I definitely from a code enforcement perspective, I appreciate
Exactly.
it.
And it's, we've gone And I don't bear all the responsibility for it. I've been wanting to come and talk to you all about this for a long time. We've been able to manage our way through it, but as Doc was saying earlier, budgets. I don't have the budget to give anymore. I can't. It's just not there. And it's not fair to the residents. It's not fair, because, if everyone else is paying a price increase, then I'm paying a price increase for getting rid of the stuff. It's just a matter of passing it on. As Jessica said, Republic's going to charge us, period.
Sure.
No, I was just going to say, and when do we get the recycling presentation?
Next workshop.
Roughly?
We hope. We've asked Sunoco to give us their information since
Yeah.
we've met with them as soon as they can. So as long as we can get that in the next couple of weeks, we'll have.
There are some things that we're going to have to make some decisions on, and I think it'd be a little early to even discuss anything to where it can be just kind of, people worried about it or anything like that. There's been some problems and issues in the industry, but I think we have enough foresight and with the citizens here in town, as much as they have embraced the recycling program, I think we're going to be okay. It's one of those things, but I appreciate your
I
time.
have two things. First one, thank you for the very well detailed presentation in terms of the rate comparisons. The only thing that I question is going from $15 to $25 for the minimum. That's almost a 100% increase.
Yes.
If someone leaves a couch and a chair out on the street, instead of calling the city to pick it up, we throw it in the truck and run it by the transfer station, pay the $15 because it's less. It's based on.
If you live in the city, it don't cost you nothing anyway.
But as a business, it costs us.
Yes.
So I'm saying someone drops off junk, and it's based on tonnage anyway, going from 15 to 20 to me seems like a more responsible way versus someone's going to say, I'm going to pay 15 versus 25. Maybe I'll shove it to someone else's. I'm just trying to, instead of going to almost 100% increase, is $20 minimum dump for the transfer station and the landfill.
Okay, I'll look at it and see what we can do. I appreciate your
Something
input.
I think would be more favorable. Because most folks, when they come out there with a pickup truck load, it's not, but maybe a couple 100 pounds, 500 pounds.
And if they're county,
Versus a ton.
if they don't live in the city, you're right. It still costs. It costs as much to to handle it and to process it. But I get it. But we'll take a look at it and go from there. Anything else?
Thank you, Phil.
If you want us to bring this back to you in our fee, we will have to update the fee schedule, so we'll need a consensus as to what you do want to charge. I'm hearing that maybe the $25 for the minimum at the transfer station, is that...
Transfer and landfill both.
Is that everybody is concerned about that cost, or we sort of need to know what number to put in before we can bring it back?
I'd like to hear from it. I'd like the experts to go back and look at the numbers, whatever, if he feels.
Go look at it and see. The transfer station may have to stay there because of, like I said, the additional host fees that we're having to talk about paying. The landfill, we have a little more flexibility with, but the transfer station, since those costs are just absolutely
When you look
fixed.
at the rate, were you kind of calculating what amount of money it would bring in order to help the budget?
And it definitely would, and it won't look as ugly because we have had some unexpected costs. This year has been, horrible for my entire department when it comes to that. The previous years have been good. But without this additional revenue, we're not going to have the latitude to be able to continue to operate without getting hit so hard as far as going into any reserves.
In terms of the consensus, I'm not really sure I understood what Doug was asking you.
So right now, someone drops a couple of mattresses and a box spring on a job, we throw it in the pickup truck, run out to the transfer station, drop it off, minimum.
Well, okay,
So they only may weigh 200 pounds, but
I just want to
based
say
on
on a
tonnage.
job, what do you mean by, I'm not really understanding
Like someone
the context.
at a home, so it's property owners or businesses, they get
You're
something.
saying like a landlord.
Landlord or someone
Okay.
in the parking lot gets something dumped in their yard, the city's not gonna pick it up. So
Right.
you throw it in the truck, run it out to the transfer station.
And you
The
pay
minimum
15.
15 is the minimum, even though based on the price per ton is less than, it's like $35, $36 per ton.
True, and I was just going,
Ratio is,
If you're in the city, it's not a cost at all.
well, if you're a business, it costs, so.
right, if you're a business, it costs, yeah. I mean, just the residents is what we're talking about dumping for, for free, or bringing stuff over for free.
Yeah, throwing in, so it's a given, it's gonna cost me $15 to go dump this in the landfill. Now it's gonna be 25, and you're still way less than a ton of weight, 2,000 pounds.
We looked at that in
4,000 pounds.
relation to, well, the code, our ordinance basically says, the property owners are responsible for what's there, not the renters, and different things like that going into, stuff like that. So, but I mean, it's,
And they should.
Well, you gave me two different numbers. You said it's 15 now.
Right.
Then you said something about 35-ish.
So it's going to, so the price per ton is 35-ish,
Right.
38.
But you're paying the
You're
15.
paying based on the weight of what you're dropping off. So if the furniture only weighs 200 pounds,
It's still
on
15.
the ratio.
It's been $15 since when?
Yeah.
since I've been here,
So that's
2001, 19 years, yeah.
Okay. It should go.
And,
Right, but I'm just trying to understand the calculation so I can make sure I get it. So you're saying it's $15?
yes,
If you bring 2 mattresses and a couch
a non-city resident or
as a
business.
non-city resident or a business.
Exactly.
It's $15 plus weight, or it's just
No,
still
just
$15?
just $15 flat.
Okay, and so then what we're saying is if someone comes in with 2 mattresses and a couch, whenever this is passed, the 15 is now 25?
Yes.
Okay, so please help me understand what you're saying about the weight affecting I get where if it's at a
So
certain weight.
$25 on a ratio of 2 tons versus the cost, you're basically paying for 1,200 pounds of, storing up 1,200 pounds worth of weight, but you're only bringing 300 pounds. And what we're being charged is by the tonnage when we take it to the landfill. So it's
Wait,
just
take
a
the
rate.
truck full.
Okay, well, I'm okay with the rate structure as presented.
Okay, well, thank you. I'll look at the 20 and we can see what we can work around with that. I appreciate everybody listening to me, and so Commissioner McCord, you...
Sorry, I don't have anything. He was talking to me, sir. I'm sorry.
Mr. Francis,
I appreciate you not sleeping.
on the marketplace comparison you've already done, you have done transfer station and landfill market comparisons. Do
Yes.
they have minimums, and what are they? Or do they not have minimums and it's only by the ton?
No, they do have a minimum, and something that I missed that I did not put in there, I'll be happy to bring it back to you.
Okay,
I'll make
so
a few calls.
we can check that and see what-
Yeah, and that's one, thanks for bringing that up. I did not even look at that. But there is a minimum on all of them, because it's just, like I said, it costs as much to move a 200-pound mattress as it does a ton of garbage. So as far as the handling, but different things like that. Thanks again, I appreciate it. And we'll get back to you on the other.
Next, we need to discuss a request from Spalding County Commission to fund 1/5 of $30,000 market study for Phase 2 of the art space feasibility report.
And I think most of you are aware of this project that has been ongoing. It started with the Land Bank asking Art Space, which is a private company out of Minnesota,
Yeah, I
to
think so.
come down and look at the Haston House as a potential project for an art space community. When they came, they surveyed several sites here in our community and actually fell in love with Heritage Park, Rosenwald in particular. And so Spalding County would like to continue. Land Bank has sort of stepped aside at this point. They paid the initial, I think, $25,000 for them to come down. And now the next step in this process would be a market study to discuss the feasibility of the art space project at Rosenwald specifically. And so Spalding County has jumped on that, since this is a project for SPOS for them, and is asking several different organizations within our community to participate in that, splitting that funding. And Mr. Kirk will explain a little bit more about that.
All right, so that was good. Thank you. So essentially, you're doing a tax credit project, is what they're asking for. So the market study is $30,000, and then if the market study is good, you go on to the pre-development one, which is $150,000. Pre-development two, with another $300,000, and then pre-development four would be another $300,000. So you're looking at $780,000 over the next 3 to 4 years to do a project that we kind of do already with Penrose and the Housing Authority. So about 3 or 4 months ago, Kenny and I sat down with Chad and William and said, hey, the city is trying to do these 3 projects that we discussed, I guess, the last meeting, the downtown, the Lincoln Road, and the Lexington Square project. Why not just put this project on with our project, which kind of makes sense. And you can make, I don't know, let's say you got 80 units, you can make 25, 30 of those be artist units, whatever the number may be, which is a little bit more feasible. So with our space, you're looking at a 4 to 7 year ordeal, whereas with the Penrose developers and the Housing Authority, you're looking at maybe 2 years. So we did present that to them. 4% tax credits are non-competitive, and they're a little bit easier to get versus a 9%. 9% is competitive. So at the end of the day, the county could spend that $780,000 and not be funded for that project.
Sure.
So, what do you do?
Tucson, is that for, I know this is a dumb question, but you said 3 to 4 years and so forth. Are we asking for the money for the next budget year? Because I was just concerned where we would get it this budget year.
That I can't answer right now. Now?
No, it would come from your contingency.
Okay.
And it is
There
for
you
this
go. She
fiscal
can
year.
answer.
They want it now. So the county wanted a response yesterday, but we did not meet again until today. That's why Ms. Gibson is here, to hear what we have to say today.
They're asking
Also,
for- Go ahead.
and they're asking for this 1/5 of this 30,000. And like the Housing Authority, they did the first phase, and not the Housing Authority, the Land Bank, and they didn't qualify or anything. So that was just, that to me it was just money gone because they didn't get anything for their money. And the county's asking us to pay 1/5 of this now, but if they asking us to pay 1/5 now, when they get to the next phase,
Right.
and the next phase, and the next phase.
All right.
And even throughout these phases, probably if we continue to pay through the phases, they're gonna do it. And at the end, it still could come back that.
All right.
Correct. That is not a feasible project.
The nail on the head, this tends to smack of a gratuity to me. And I think the question you need to ask yourself is, what is it I get out of this money? Do I get a service? Do I get something in return? Or am I just giving away public money?
Yeah.
As
So,
you see in your agenda item 2, the Board of Education has already decided that they cannot proceed with their 5th. So at this point now we're down to 4. So our portion would increase. The Development Authority did say that they would participate in their 5th, but now again that's 4. And then the Housing Authority has yet to respond to that.
yeah, so Bob actually has some.
They're in a different position. They're not bound by the gratuities clause. Cities and counties are.
I serve on the Development Authority, and they were very adamant that everybody participate in this initial $30,000. And I guess maybe I didn't know it was going to be an ongoing.
Well, I can't say.
Turn it down.
I can't say that.
Whisper. I don't want anybody to hear me.
Yeah, I'm not saying it can be ongoing, but it could potentially be ongoing. So I don't know what that
So
looks like.
See, you presented it a little bit different. The way it was presented at the Development Authority, we were going to we asking everybody to fund all the same, raise the bar. This is what we're gonna do for Griffin, and what is $30,000? We're all gonna put in there. We're gonna go to the Rosenwall. We're gonna make this thing nice. We got all this art space. Why isn't the school participating? And it affects them. And the kids to get a chance to go. What if all of this? What if they said all of that, but no one put that B clause or the rest of the B clause on
The
it?
rest of the story.
The rest of the story, the Paul Harvey on it. So now, with that being said,
And another thing for me is the fact that this was the SPLOST project. And basically, we'll be double taxing, or it was, the Rosenwald project was not a city project, it was a countywide project.
So be mindful, the tax credit project is for the housing. So they still could apply for historical tax credits to go along with the SPLOST dollars that they have to do the Rosenwald.
Who are they? The county?
I guess the county, yes, the county. So
The county can come into the city and do tax credit projects without even us being involved.
yes. Yes.
And also the housing authority.
So, well, what I would think with the housing authority would be on board, but here's the thing, when you do a 9% tax credit project, we did that with Meriwether Street, you did phase 1, 2, and 3. It works better if you do it in multiple phases, because once you do a 9%, let's say they do the 9% at Heritage Park, I'll call it, okay? Then you're locked out for 5 years. You can't do another tax credit project within that area. So that's why the 4% is more attractive. That's why it worked better at Meriwether, because they did 9%, but they did them in phases. And so DCA was okay with that. So it's kind of how you play the numbers. But I know that if the Housing Authority is part of this, this deal, it could kind of hinder them from moving forward with other projects. So I'm not sure how they're going to respond, but I just think at the end of the day, grouping it with our projects would be much more reasonable. And again, we're not paying the city pays nothing, so the developer pays the brunt of the money up front. Okay? So right here, the county is taking the responsibility, and our space could, at the end of the day, say, hey, project didn't work, we've lost this money.
Right, so that's what I'm understanding, is that each phase has the potential for deniability.
Well, not necessarily each phase. So if you get to the second phase, right?
Everything else they keep getting money.
Because what they're doing is you're applying for the you're creating an application. So you're doing all the information, all the work to get the information to apply for the tax credit project. Okay, and so once it's submitted, then you wait to see if your project is competitive amongst the other 9%. And so if it is, great. If it's not, then you go back to the drawing board.
So now who's in charge of this again?
In charge of what?
Who's bringing this before us?
The landlord?
The county's coming. The county.
Right.
I don't mind sharing costs.
I
It's
think it
just,
would be great if they came and gave us that
Yeah.
formal presentation. Kind of, so, like, again, when it was presented at the Development Authority, that's not what was said. It was simply,
Right.
hey, we just need to pay this $30,000, and we're gonna split it amongst the school board, the county, the city, development.
And that's fine. I mean, you got the 30,000, but then what's going to happen after the 30,000?
That sounded like it was, okay, we are, this is
Maybe
It's a city project and we're doing,
Right.
community project and.
again, I'm not saying that they're going to ask for any more after the 30. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that those are the numbers, so I want you to be aware of those numbers. So
I just want to.
saying.
We need a timeline with amounts and what they need.
Right.
Well, if you look in your packet there, it does give you the timelines.
so this is phase 2? This is the phase 2 part of it?
You're in
If we can keep scrolling, the
Step 2.
attachment is on the agenda item, and you can see if you'll go all the way to close to the bottom of the.
I guess my
it's like an
question was,
appendix
so
two.
far, we haven't spent any on, so far.
Correct.
This
We
is,
have not.
okay.
Correct. So the market study is 6 months. So it's going to take them 6 months to do the market study. Then the pre-development one takes another 3 to 6 months, which is $150,000. Then 12 months for pre-development 2, which is $300,000. So
What is pre-development?
So it breaks it down in there. Once she brings it up, you can see how it breaks down. But again, our developer, Penrose and the Housing Authority, take on the brunt of the funds up front. Okay?
So if you look at this page that's up now, step 2 is the arts market study. This is what they're requesting funding for now.
Correct.
You can see that the time frame.
This is okay,
The first step 1, the land bank paid for.
Correct.
In anticipation of them hoping to take the Haston house from them. That did not work out, so now the property that they're interested in is a county project, and that's why the county has now taken the lead on this project. So this is step 2. If you scroll to the next page, Step 3, which logically speaking, if you go through step 2, the next step would be step 3, and that cost is
$150,000.
or $150,000. If you pass that step, in order to get to the next pre-development step, that is $300,000. If you go to the next step, that is $300,000 plus dollars. And then finally, step 6 is construction. This, just so that you all are aware, this all takes place every time that Penrose does a project.
Right.
But Penrose, the developer is paying for that, and Penrose is being reimbursed at the end. So they have never come to us and say, help us with all of these studies at the beginning. We don't get asked that.
I'm with Doug, is this a Ponzi scheme?
And most
They get all this money and they go do a project somewhere
Don't we
that's
still,
viable, but yet they.
what do we give the land bank every year in a budget? We still,
is it
They're
44?
operating as 44.
44,000, I think it is.
And
Yeah.
they can't even cut the grass.
Little point of clarity, so like the feasibility studies and things of that nature, we've already done those. We did, the latest market study we did was in 2017. A lot of the information that they request, we've already done. So redevelopment plans, things of that nature, we already kind of have those. So
Well, and I
that helps them save money as well.
That's the part that I'm confused about is, it's like they've taken a study that could have been a one type deal and broken it into several different pieces, because the stuff that, it's like, let's study this part, and then after we get that, let's study the feasibility of the location, and like, why can't all that be done in one fluid?
Yeah, that's a great question. I know. I mean, again, the project is, I mean, it's a good project.
Yeah, it is.
It's just how you get to the end result is what we're discussing.
I guess I don't mind sharing with the cost, but to me, to communicate from the beginning, and so to me, I'm not clear, and I'm not really comfortable with all of a sudden this demand of this money right now, when we haven't had time to plan or budget. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I'm not very comfortable with it.
I'm not either.
Thanks a
Sorry.
lot, guys, appreciate it.
But if y'all
Yeah.
like to give me $6,000 and then I'll do a study for $300,000.
Well, okay, so let me just ask this. In terms of what the Rosenwald project is, there's not a plan. Is this, I guess I'm asking, is this the attempt to establish a plan because there's not one there already?
no, that's not what they're kind of saying. They're saying that regardless of what happens with this, it's certain things they have committed to do that they have to do anyway. That's what
That I
they say.
understand.
That's what they say.
Well, right, that's what I'm, so I guess what I'm saying is that they're looking at this project as an enhancement and not trying to substitute this for the actual plan? Or am I going too far beyond?
I'm not sure that we're the right
Yeah.
person to ask that to, but from what I understand, this project that Art Space is doing a feasibility study for is for housing for artists. They would not
correct.
be housed in the Rosenwald School, they would not be housed in the Equalization Building, and they would not be housed in the gym. So this will be in addition to those projects. I
Right.
think where they believe that this would be helpful for what the county is trying to do in SPLOST is that because that is now artist-related, it would open up some opportunity for grant money for the artists to use the Rosenwald School as a museum or the Equalization Room as a museum. So it's a little unclear to me, and that's what I'm not for
When I
sure.
sat in on the meeting with them, they talked about, like the feasibility study, you know where the field is up on, the field is up there.
Jefferson.
Well, that was supposed to be a part of the whole Rosenwald project for green space and stuff. What would they be?
I think
What do you
looking at
mean?
existing city neighborhoods and how we can.
There's the old, where the pool used to be. That's a lot over there, but that's not big enough to build.
I just think.
This plan is for 25 to 30 housing units for artists. I mean, this is a low-income housing tax credit, so it can only be used for housing.
But the amount of
Well,
money
where
we're
would the artists
spending,
come
we could
from?
build 20 or 30.
Well,
That's what this
the
study
market
is
study's
supposed
gonna-
to
right.
show,
But we
is
could-
their artists.
But with that much money, you could go build 20 or 30 housing units.
I mean, you in essence, you could take a phase two, you could take the phase 2, phase 3 Meriwether project and put it on that property and still create a green space and everything you wanted to create. But you get more yield, you get more, you get 50, 60 units versus the 25 units. So again, it just depends on how you slice the pie, and what's the best option.
Because housing was not, in that area, was not an original part of the plan.
It is not the SPLOST project, no.
Okay, so we want to take a historic site and put apartments on it for artists.
No,
Center,
so everything's, the Rosenwald piece stays the same.
Right.
The housing would be next door or adjacent to it.
So this $30,000 would be to determine whether it was feasible.
The $30,000 is for the market to find the artists to go into the housing, I'm assuming. That's what it says. I mean, that's what it says here. Art market study.
If the housing authority is prepared to move forward, I think we'll be full support
Oh, yeah,
for them to do a project of housing in that area.
Yeah.
That would be exciting. Remove the slum, the blight, the weed lots, and put new housing, rebuild the neighborhood around that area. We can support them and put the infrastructure to make it happen.
I think the ability to attract grants to the project in general is great, but I don't know that I support us putting apartments that are dedicated for artists who we don't even know will come to the community and if they give us any tangible benefit.
Right, so if, let's say that Penrose did the project, then you'll get a mix. You'll get, like, for lack of a better word, regular people and artists. It could be a mix. It doesn't have necessarily be specifically for artists.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna pass.
Yeah.
And, okay, how, Penrose is doing the Fairmont rehab.
Correct.
That's basically right across the street. Would that be?
It's, yeah. It won't be in competition right now because it's 4%, so that won't have an issue. That won't be an issue. But if you did a 9% there, then it can kind of hinder any other development for like 5 years.
Okay.
Make a motion to adjourn the
All
meeting.
right.
Okay.
Oh, bye. See ya.
Awesome. No, I ain't shut nothing down. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, exactly. I think